Yo guys, what is going on? There's not much to talk about. I think I did that, not the previous video, but a couple of videos ago where I'm like, I don't know what I'm talking about. There's nothing else to say. Like everything in the news has been a repeat of something else I've already talked about. So I guess I could bring up each new thing that happened, say this is just like the last time, which is just like the last time, which is just like the last time, and then bring it into, a point or ideology or something. But it's just like, what's the point of that? Take, for example, was it every couple of days you hear someone running over a protester on the street? Well, I've already gave my 2 cents on that. You shouldn't be rioting in the street and then attacking cars and then get surprised or act like the victim whenever you get run over or shot at. Like, I've already said that. I've already said that. The point's already been made. I mean, I know I have lots of videos, so you may not have seen that particular one, but I'm like, I already talked about this so many times. Like, I've already criticized the riots for being counterproductive, and unconstitutional and un-American, and you just whatever you want to, like, whatever buzzword, or it's not really a buzzword because it actually is truth. But like, I've already said riots are bad, okay? Like, I've already said it. There's no point. Trump's pick to the Supreme Court, definitely not the worst pick. She's gonna be a lot better than Ginsburg. That's for damn sure. Ginsburg, whatever fucking name is, the skexy looking motherfucker. She was a horrendous Supreme Court judge. I'm so sickened when people look up to her as like a feminist icon or just a good judge in general. Like, she was horrendous. She embodies everything bad about what the Supreme Court should not be. She was an activist judge. She did not give a fucking shit about the Constitution at all. The Supreme Court is supposed to interpret the Constitution, and whenever cases come up, they use that as the basis of whether something should be legal or not. That's it. That's all they are supposed to do. All this activist crap where they had been disregarding the Constitution out the window for decades now. This is absolutely nothing new. This has been going on way before I was born. Where they just throw out the window. It's like, well, what do I personally believe government should or shouldn't do? Okay, well, I'm just going to vote like that. A bunch of activist judges who just rule the most stupid fucking rulings ever, which is why we have so many horrendous laws that like 90% of our laws are unconstitutional. And like, everyone's like, wow, it's a real radical thing to say, bro. What are you talking about? It's like, but it's true. If the Constitution doesn't say the government can do something, then it can't do it. And you're like, wow, that includes like Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare. And I'm like, exactly, that's what I'm saying. We have gone off the path from Constitution for such a long time. And Ginsburg was just one of many that has been doing this. She wasn't like the only one to do it. So I think Trump's pick is going to be better. Excuse me. It's going to be better. She claims to be a originalist when it comes to interpreting the Constitution. She says she will do what I just said a judge should do, is just interpret the Constitution and not put your own spin on it. But there are so many judges who say they're going to do that and then they don't. So many conservatives love to say that they love the Constitution, that they believe the Constitution, they vote for politicians who want to protect the Constitution. Then they go vote for people who flagrantly don't. Like, basically almost every single Republican candidate I can think of besides, like, Rand Paul. All of those goons up there in 2015, 2016, they are all big government, anti-liberty establishment candidates. They don't give a shit about the Constitution. They don't give a shit about your rights. They're not going to do jack shit about it. In fact, they're just going to make it worse. So, yeah, his pick will be better, but will she fix things? No. The Republicans act like, oh, we're going to stack the courts now, and all these Supreme Court decisions are going to be constitutional, and we're going to, bring it back to the ground, bring it down to center, when it comes to what the Supreme Court should do, and that is just interpret the Constitution. It's like, well, you might do that sometimes to an extent, but you're not going to get rid of the 90% of laws that I just said are unconstitutional. You're not going to do that because you are the establishment. You're not the mainstream. You're not the mainstream culture. You're not even but you're not the counterculture either. They're not going to fix anything. So that was a little longer tangent, but it's just like, I've already said all these things. I've already said all these things about Republicans, about the Supreme Court, about activist judges, about how they're not going to fix anything, and they just make things worse differently than the Democrats. So there's no point. I could make a video about her and going into her past rulings and her ideology and whatever, and the Democrat smears against her. It's just like, one, people already been doing that. The video's already up, so beat me to it. And two, it's just like, I don't really care. I becoming more disinterested in politics as they just repeat themselves into, oh, this is category A I just talked about. Oh, this fits into category B. I've already talked about this 17 times. Gun rights, abortion, big government, spending, whatever. All of these things you see happening in the world all fall into, well, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Like I said in the last video, the Breonna Taylor murder was a manifestation of the drug war. That was the drug war in action. That was seeing something intangible, quote unquote, the drug war, and all the laws and policies associated with it, into real action, something you can tangibly see. Like we already said, the drug war is bad. I've been saying the drug war is bad for as long as I've been making videos. So it's just the latest iteration. And when something happened like this again, another person is killed in a police raid, or another police officer is killed in a raid, I'm saying, well, told you. Or like whenever a state has a huge budget deficit, it's like, well, how much are you spending on the war on drugs? Oh, fuck ton? Oh, well, that's part of your problem. It's not your only problem, but it's part of your problem. What else? All the money the federal government spent on the war on drugs, more than, I think it was $1.5 trillion, just in the trillions. Like, well, that's just one chunk of why we have so much national debt. Like, just, I've already said national debt's bad. I've been saying national debt's bad for years. It's not the only thing making it bad. In fact, it's not the biggest thing by a long shot, but it's part of it. It's like, well, you talk about government infringing our rights all the time. Well, that's just one way they do it on the drug war, because all drug laws are unconstitutional. The Constitution does not say the government has the right to tell you what you willingly put in your own body. Even if you think it's the most retarded thing to put in your body, if the government just doesn't allow you, the Constitution says the government has no right to do that. State, federal, local, doesn't fucking matter. Riots, when we talk about riots some more, like, oh, they're bad, they're stupid, they're a real threat. These race riots, the way they see things, no pun intended, in black and white, where like all white people, especially all white men, are evil, and we must attack them and take away their property and take away their rights, and they are at war with us, so we must be at war with them in order to protect ourselves. Or whatever ideology you want to say about Black Lives Matter, it's not about police brutality. It's about black supremacy. And I know it's so uncomfortable to talk about it, but that's what it's about. It's not about police brutality. Otherwise, they would highlight every single aspect of police brutality, which police brutality does exist. I do agree with them on that. But the way they're going about it, just making a two-tier caste system for black people so they can just do whatever they want, and then the police won't have any power to do anything about them, either because of financial, or they're defunded, or they don't want to go after them, they don't want to pursue them when they're committing crime, to balance out the stats. I've already said this like 20,000 times. Whatever way they are going about it is not the correct way. Police brutality, again, is demilitarizing. There's a difference between demilitarizing the police and defunding the police. I am all for demilitarizing the police. I've been for demilitarizing the police way before any of this Black Lives Matter stuff even happened. There's a difference between that and defunding them. Saying, we're just going to slash your budget by a fuck ton so you just can't respond to things, and you have less money for training, and you can't protect people. That's the whole problem. We need to move funding away from the drug war and put it into how they respond to these riots, because they cannot protect even themselves. The police precincts being set on fire, and they are too timid to do anything. They are so pussyfooting around this whole entire thing. And I'm not saying it's the police officer's fault. It's definitely their fault. They're not the one making the policy. It's the police sergeants, people in charge, and the politicians that tell the police every single time to stand down, don't shoot them, when they're like throwing rocks at your head and stuff. Or even like setting the building on fire, like, don't shoot them. It's just like, you should take such a different hardline approach to this, and you would nip this in the bud, but you're scared of being called racist, or the politicians are. I know the police don't give a shit. They're shooting us, we should shoot them back. And it's the politicians and telling the police bosses to not respond. And they hamstring them, and they can't respond even to protect themselves, much less all the businesses that have been tortured, all the buildings that have been tortured, all the houses that have been tortured, the dozens and dozens of people that have been killed in these race riots. The police have been unable to defend them, to save them. You just take all that money from the drug war and put it into more funding for police officers to respond to these riots. Furthermore, you can bring all the troops home from overseas, because all that's unconstitutional, and Congress, hasn't declared war in like 70 fucking years? All that's unconstitutional. Congress has to declare war in order to go to war, but they haven't done that since, like, I think World War II, maybe Korea. You don't quote me on that exact, because I'm not kind of fuzzy. But I'm pretty sure World War II was the last one, maybe Korea in the 50s. But other than that, it's been like well within almost all of our lifetimes of the people watching this video, they haven't declared war. So all those wars are unconstitutional. There's no reason for all these troops to be there. We spend trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars on the military-industrial complex. Bring all those troops home, and we would save so much money that you can even deploy some of those to fight the rioters, and we'd still be saving money. If you look at the pie chart, how massive amount of our federal budget is spent on the military. We could be spending a fraction of that and still increase military readiness, because politicians have not allowed the generals and the commanders to focus on military readiness for quite some time now, decades and decades and decades of spending more and more money on the military each and every year, and yet our battle readiness is going down. I wonder why. That's a topic for another time. Maybe I can talk about that in detail. Another video of how we were spending more money and being less battle ready to fight not only insurgent groups like in Afghanistan, but like a large scale war against like Russia and China, for example, which is becoming increasingly possible each year. Especially if you want to believe that China unleashed this Wuhan virus on purpose, or at least saw it happening and didn't do anything to stop it because they knew it would hurt us. That's an act of war. If Chinese military killed 200,000 Americans, fuck yeah, that would be an act of war. But since they do it indirectly through this little bat virus, oh, it's okay. Oh yeah, we can't get mad at them. Oh, it's racist to be against them. Oh, NBA and Disney, you bow down to China even though they killed like tens of thousands of countrymen. And everyone's okay with this. Okay, like this is what we're doing now. This is 2020, y'all. This is the current year, and we're just gonna do all this stupid shit. It makes absolutely no sense. You can't call out, otherwise you're whatever buzzword you get called nowadays, racist, Trump supporter, privileged, just whatever. Like, and you're just like, I'm sorry. Like, if it was just one retarded thing, then I guess I could ignore it and just be okay. It's kind of bad, but whatever. But there's like you're doing 50 detrimental things to this country simultaneously, and we can't call it out at all. Because that's what the media and the politicians want. If they were like, okay, we're going to do all this heinous shit, but we want it to be socially unacceptable for anyone to call us out on it. So how do we do that? It's like, well, you label the worst insults that you can label against someone, like a sexist or a racist or homophobe or xenophobe or whatever, and you apply that to every single thing they contrary you with. Every single time they oppose you, you just hurl that at you and make the damage stick, like losing your job, your social reputation out the window, or barring future employment, or whatever. So people are scared to talk about it. People are scared to talk about things honestly, or at all. You brainwash them into thinking they're being under attack constantly, so they are so hypersensitive about talking about the most basic political themes or policies or issues of our time. Like, you can't talk about anything. And, I know some people are naive, like, oh, people are just so damn sensitive. You just can't talk about anything nowadays. What's with that, man? No, it's not just that's just how the country's going. They're doing that on purpose so we can't talk about things honestly and even arrive to even a semblance of a solution. Both parties who get elected all the fucking time don't want to solve any of these issues. How is it that we have so many instances of one political party, either Republicans or Democrats, controlling every aspect of the federal government, stacking the Supreme Court, so the Supreme Court decides them every single time. And yet somehow, with all of this money and unsurmountable amount of wealth because they tax us into oblivion and they borrow into oblivion, somehow they just can't solve these problems. Darn. It's just such a persistent problem we're facing. Whatever problem you want to talk about, like poverty or health, the health of Americans, or struggling to, income is not risen in many years. People are struggling to put food on the table and gas in the car. It's my phrase. Because I struggled to do that for so many years. I fucking sucked dick. A little better off now, but it's just different problems. I'm definitely better than under Obama. I fucking had no money under Obama. I worked my ass off for nothing. Just scrounging to make a living. And now I'm doing better. 2020 has fucked me up a lot, but I'm still doing better overall. But like, I'm doing better. See, that's what is scary, is that when I'm kind of worried about finances or whatever, and I take a look at the numbers, I'm like, I'm doing better than the vast majority of Americans are. The vast majority of Americans have no savings. They have poor credits. They have a lot of debts. They don't own property. They're stuck at dead-end jobs. Well, actually, I'm stuck at a dead-end job. But, so like if you take the things off, I'm not in perfect shape, but I'm doing a lot better than most people. They don't have job security. I have a dead-end job, but it's very secure. It's not going anywhere. Well, back to the point of, like, the politicians have all the power. They have literally, as exampled by this year, they have the power to control every single tiny little aspect of your life. The clothes you wore was only because they allowed the business to legally operate in this country. The car you're driving, same thing. The house was built to code by a plethora of different building codes that they have to pass in order to build the house. Every item you have in your house has to be guaranteed by the government to meet certain regulations. Your speech is regulated. All your communications are regulated. The roads are codified. Well, it's supposed to. Pretty shitty, but everything. Like, that's just an example of everything you look around. The building you work in has certain codes with OSHA and not being discriminated against people with disabilities. Like, everything has to be a certain size. The hallway has to be a certain size. The bathroom stalls have to be a certain size. People with wheelchairs to get through. They have to have ramps. They have to have an elevator. Whatever. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that every single tiny little thing you can think of, you can't dig without calling. You have to buy a permit to sell lemonade anywhere. You have to buy a permit to do anything, to host a gathering in a public place, like in a public park. You get a permit. Like, my point is, they control every single aspect of your life. They have all the power, all the money in the world, and yet still, they can't solve the issues that have been plaguing this country for decades, and it's turning into a shithole. Like, do you honestly believe they actually want to solve these issues? No, they don't. The main two political parties don't give a flaming shit. They only care about themselves. They will throw this country into the dumpster fire, and if it makes them making a quick buck, and they can buy 3 mansions and travel the world, whatever. They don't care. They benefit from the system they have created. They don't want to change it. Yes, there are some individual good politicians. I can't name any Democrats. Like Tulsi. If we had more Tulsi Gabbards in the Democrat Party, then no, it wouldn't be perfect. It would annoy me in certain regards, but it would be way better than the Democrat Party we have now. Same thing with the Republican Party. If we had more Rand Pauls in there, it wouldn't be perfect. He says things I don't agree with, but it would be a heck of a lot better than the country we have today. If, like, that's what I would want for Democratic debate. Rand Paul versus Tulsi Gabbard. That would actually be beneficial to the country. If people actually heard their views, because they got drowned out because of Bloomberg and Biden and Kamala Harris and Warren. So, hey, I'm approaching 20 minutes here, and that was a whole lot of talking about a video that I'm not going to talk about anything. But, like, that's the reason why I'm trying to say I'm not talking about anything specific, because I've already talked about the driving issue behind an incident. I can be one of those people on YouTube talk about every single instant of everything that's happening, like big news stuff. But it all leads back to an issue we've already talked about. These issues drive these incidences that we see every day now, and they go on for decades and decades and decades. Is there anything else in conclusion? I'm just really tired, and I just kind of tired talking about it, which is why I don't make as videos often as I used to. I just want to sit, play video games. When I have free time, I don't feel like, let me do this in-depth research for like 4 fucking hours about this topic, so, I don't say anything incorrect. Sometimes I do, but I just don't feel like doing it as often as I used to, which is why I don't make videos often. But I will continue the saga, because the election's in 6 weeks. How can I be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to stop talking about politics? Like, when the first debate is tonight, I think I'm not going to upload this till after the first presidential debate, but first one is tonight, and then the election is like 6 weeks away. So no, I'm not going to stop. It's just going to be less often.